BroMob, welcome in. Bryan here, your host today, Fantasy Football Bros podcast. Chad has the day off, no big deal. You guys want to listen to me more anyway, I'd imagine. Look, we've got a busy day for you, a lot to go through in a very short show. This is going to be shorter than normal, but we've got a lot to unpack, a lot to get through. We took the day off yesterday for the U.S. elections. What a mess. Not going to get into it, but we still don't know what's going on as of this recording. So anyway, long story short, a lot to go through. Look, I'm going to get right into it. But before I do, you can listen to us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere a podcast is there. We're there also. Just look for the Fantasy Football Bros podcast. You can also watch us on YouTube and TikTok. You can look at our TikTok handle at it's at Fantasy Football Bros. And be sure to follow along after the show by following us on Instagram and Twitter at FF Bros Podcast. You can find us anywhere. Hashtag BroMob is the search for us. Also, be sure to head over to the fantasyfootballbros.com for all kinds of news, articles, more. So much to unpack. Look, I'm going to get right into it. We've got NFL trade deadline stuff to talk about, or we're going to briefly touch on that. We got COVID news. We're going to get into love hates. We're going to get into streamers. But before I do, we're going to get right into it today. Look, the Dallas Cowboys, we've talked a little bit about these guys over the last few pods. Man, it's done. It's time to move on. Amari Cooper, probably the only guy I really want on the team. I'd say CeeDee Lamb, also somebody worth keeping, but expectations tempered. We're talking not only third string, but maybe even fourth string quarterbacks at this point. Andy Dalton should be back here in a week. That's why I'm optimistic about the running back or the wide receivers. I think we're going to be okay there. However, I want to talk about this one guy. Guys, it is time to move on from Zeke Elliott. For Zeke Elliott owners, I hate to say it. I'm going to be very blunt. I was wrong. I thought for sure the team would use this as an opportunity to lean on the run heavier, take the pressure off of quarterback position, take the pressure off of your defense a little bit, utilize what is probably, or who is probably the third to fifth best running back in the league. In some cases, maybe even top two. And in Zeke Elliott, a guy that you're paying a fortune to. I just don't understand the organization and what they're doing. The coaching staff clearly has no clue how to use this guy. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of jones for the days of Jason Garrett to come back as head coach. This is terrible. And so that being said, look, the offensive line's a mess. The schedule coming up, which I'm going to talk about here, is not doing him any favors, especially this week. You draw Pittsburgh. You're not going to run much on that defense. It's highly unlikely. Next week, you've got a bye. Then you come back, you get a favorable matchup in Minnesota. Then you're talking about Washington, which you might think sounds good. But look, just a few weeks ago, you're talking about 51 yards rushing against Washington. He hasn't scored in a few weeks now. I just don't see that changing. Cincinnati, San Francisco, one of the top defenses against running backs this year in fantasy. Philadelphia, you've got two matchups to finish the year for fantasy football of defenses that are that are outside of the top 10 against running backs this year. It's not favorable. And even if it were, I mean, normally I would say it doesn't matter. Zeke is start proof. You know, you have to start him. That's not the case this year. Like I said, the offensive line's a mess. The coaching staff doesn't do him any favors in trying to scheme him and give him the ball when it matters. It's terrible. And so what I'm saying here is, if you can capitalize on the Zeke Elliott name and move him for a guy, this might be the time to do it. So trade him on his name value now. It's time to go. Look, Antonio Brown is set to debut this week, and this is going to be awesome. I feel like Bruce Arians has said very clearly that he is a big part of the game plan this week. And he kind of nonchalantly talked about like, I don't know, he might have, 20 some plays. He might have, close 30 over 30 plays. It all depends. We'll see how it goes. Translation, he's going to play a lot. The only thing, and that's I actually think this is good for Antonio Brown this week, is you add into it, Chris Godwin actually practiced today. It's Wednesday. I'm recording right now. He practiced today. So if he's able to put a helmet on and play this week, and you've got Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin on the field, Gronkowski, I'd imagine New Orleans, who they play this week, is going to scheme a little bit towards Antonio Brown, expecting him to be involved. But you can't double anybody. How can you? And so this is going to be a blessing in disguise for Antonio Brown. It could actually be a really great game for guys like Godwin and Evans also. This could really open things up for them a little bit. So I look for Antonio Brown to have a big game. He played with Brady one game, Miami last year, on virtually no practice that week. He's had almost 2 weeks to kind of work with the team. He got the study film last week, and then this week practice. 8 targets, 4 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Probably could have had a better game if he had more time to work with the team. And this is a more pass-friendly, better offense with more talent around. Antonio Brown's going to eat, guys. This is going to be a really great game. Looking forward to watching it. Can't wait. I'm going to have my popcorn ready. And then lastly, we had a chance to kind of see the NFL trade deadline come on Tuesday, and then we watched it sail away. What a waste of time. Nothing came of it, which begs me to ask the question of what are these teams doing? Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers could use some help. Will Fuller would have definitely fit the bill. You can't cough up a second round pick. Why? Because you want to maybe draft another quarterback? Get with the program. It's ridiculous that you can't get this guy a wide receiver. Devontae Adams out there beasting. This is great news for Devontae Adams owners. Just rest of season, he's an automatic start. That's clear as day. He could be arguably the wide receiver 1 rest of season. And so Devontae Adams, huge deal for him. Status quo for Rodgers, but if Rodgers would have landed Will Fuller, this would have been a big deal for Rodgers. Would have been a big deal for the running game. So rest of season, I like Adams. I like Rodgers. That's about it. All right, so let's get into some love hates. Before we do, though, I want to kind of go through the bye weeks this week. So this week we do have several buys or 2 buys, I believe, to talk about. So I want to touch that. But before I do, just a quick update. There was some COVID that struck this week. Matt Stafford is out. He's not going to play. Okay, so he's not going to play for the next 2 weeks. He tested positive for COVID. This is an impact to guys like Marvin Jones. It's an impact to Kenny Golladay if he happens to actually play. I don't think he's going to. So not a good sign for Lions players. It's actually also an impact on the running game, because now defenses can kind of stack the box and say, I dare you to beat me with your quarterback, who's your backup. So, but yeah, not good. So just in case you're wondering, Matt Stafford was going to be a guy that I recommended as a start this week. He is off the list. Do not play Matt Stafford. You'll regret it. Also, make sure you don't play the Rams. Anybody playing for the Rams, Bengals, Eagles, Browns, all on bye this week. So yeah, make sure you don't play any of those guys. Quick side note on the Browns. The rumor is that Nick Chubb's going to be ready to go next week. Coming off of IR, should be ready to go. I think he's going to practice, and it seems like the team's ready to get him back involved. So big news for that Browns offense. Big news for Nick Chubb owners. It's been a long wait coming. Also, Christian McCaffrey likely to play this week. Looks like he's on schedule to finally be back. So long road for CMC owners as well. Looking forward to that. All right, let's get into loves and hates. Used to be love, likes, hates. Loves and hates. All right. Tom Brady plays at home this time against New Orleans Saints. Liked him a lot the first week. He was a little bit of a downer. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because, quite honestly, I think that offense was still trying to figure itself out. It was early, new team. You didn't have a preseason. You're on the road in New Orleans. This time they're at home in Tampa Bay. It looks like you're going to have everyone healthy. Leonard Fournette's going to be more involved. Antonio Brown's there. I don't see how Tom Brady doesn't have probably 3 touchdowns on this game. So Tom Brady's a start for me. Probably rest of season, but definitely this week against New Orleans Saints. Lamar Jackson, a hate for me this week. They're on the road, number 1. Number 2, it's against the Indianapolis Colts. They've been very stingy defensively this year, especially against the quarterback position and the running back position. Actually, just against every position, running back, tight end, you name it. They've been a great defense this year. And I'm not in love with Lamar Jackson right now. I just don't know. I kind of felt like I had him ranked as my number 1 quarterback, and I hated it from the moment I did it. I was like, I just really don't like it. I just felt like there was going to be regression, like there normally is when you have a breakout like that. So Lamar Jackson is regressing. I said a couple times that I felt like defenses were going to figure him out. They're going to have a season and a half now of tape on him, and they'll figure out what they're doing. They're really kind of pressuring him to throw downfield, and he just hasn't been as accurate this year downfield throwing the ball. So Lamar Jackson falls into the hate category for me this week. Don't like him. All right, at the running back position, James Conner. Love James Conner this week. Haven't really been a big fan of Conner at all through his career, I guess so. But I like him this week because they're playing the Cowboys, and that defense can't stop anybody. They're actually in line to be one of the worst defenses since the 1960s. It's ridiculous. They're terrible. Just go start a dumpster on fire, and you basically recreated the Cowboys defense. They can't stop anybody through the air. They can't stop anybody on the ground. James Conner, I could see him absolutely feasting in this game. Like James Conner a lot. The Steelers need to kind of give Ben Roethlisberger a little bit of break, but I will tell you, Ben Roethlisberger, not a bad start either, as we kind of jump back to quarterbacks. I could see this being a game where he puts some yards on the ball too. But James Conner this week, definitely like him a lot. Love. All right. And then hate. Not a big fan of Leonard Fournette this week. I know I talked about him before. I could see him more involved. However, I just don't know how involved. Ronald Jones is there. I said this before. They're not going to just delete Ronald Jones from the team. He's been too effective and efficient while Fournette was trying to get healthy. So this is a shared backfield, and honestly, this is a game against New Orleans that I could totally see being a shootout through the air, where Tom Brady and Drew Brees are kind of doing their thing. I just don't know that if Leonard Fournette happens to trip into the end zone, that's the only way I could see him being relevant, but he hasn't done that yet. And so not a big fan of Leo this week, not against the Saints. They've been stingy against running backs. And so not really a big fan. Don't know if I hate him, just really, really don't like him. All right. At wide receiver, we've got Stefon Diggs, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills. I love me some Stefon Diggs this week, and I'm going to pivot a little bit here. I'm going to back up, I guess, not pivot, back up, get it. I might have been wrong on the season for Stefon Diggs. I'm going to say it right now. He has been actually really great. He's been a big addition and a big part of why Josh Allen has broken out this year. I got to give it to him. I think I was wrong on Stefon Diggs. He has been very, very good. They are home this week against the Seattle Seahawks, who are just as terrible defensively as the Dallas Cowboys. And so maybe not as bad, but they're bad too. I could see Josh Allen returning to previous form. He struggled the last few weeks. This could be the game he gets it back on track. Stefon Diggs, Seattle Seahawks, like it. Hate DJ Moore this week. Just not a fan. I love DJ Moore on the season, but against Kansas City, they're on the road. This defense is stingy against wide receivers to begin with. I think Robbie Anderson's going to be the target guy this week, likely, because they're probably going to be trying to come back from behind. DJ Moore's likely to be involved and have some targets. I just don't know that he finds the end zone. So not a big fan of DJ Moore this week, although I will tell you that I do think the rest of season he's going to be just fine. So Christian McCaffrey likely to be heavily involved coming back from this ankle injury. I think he gets in there, gets in the mix quite a bit. He's going to be wanting to get the ball, and I think that just overshadows DJ Moore this week. All right, the tight end position. So really liked this guy coming into the season, and I love him this week against the Atlanta Falcons. They're on the road in Atlanta, and that's Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. Super athletic kid, like really, really good. Loved Noah Fant coming in, and really love him this week in this matchup. The Atlanta Falcons defensively are terrible against the tight end. They've been terrible all season, but especially against the tight end. And the team needs Noah Fant. You don't have your number one wide out there in Denver anymore. You're hobbled to injury. You got to throw it to somebody. You're going to take a shot at this uber athletic tight end. You have to. Noah Fant, I see a big game coming. I really like Noah Fant this week. Get him in your lineup. Hate is a strong word for this next guy. Because I love him, but I hate him this week. I hate his matchup this week. I still think he has a decent game. So maybe my hate isn't necessarily hate, but it's more temper your expectations. And that's tight end Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. They are on the road against Indy. Again, I just talked about Indy a little bit ago. I just don't like the matchup. This team is really great defensively this year. So, and I don't trust Lamar Jackson. I think Andrews is going to get the targets. I just think this is going to be one of those weeks where he really underperforms, and it's going to be a little bit more struggle. So if you have a guy on your squad that is a little bit better of a matchup, who's been pretty good, you might consider them this week, as Mark Andrews is likely to have a lower output on the week. All right. So that is I should say, Chad, decided not to participate at all. Didn't give me any numbers. I don't even know. Chad clearly doesn't care about fantasy this week. He doesn't care about you. Doesn't care about fantasy. And it shows in a lot of the results on his fantasy teams, to be quite honest, except for League of Record. I'll have to give it to him. He's crushing it. But I also am crushing it. Why am I talking like this? All right. Streamers. Let's get into these super, super sexy, slimy streamers. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's start at the quarterback position at the streamer spot. Cam Newton. He's very owned. So I say this with a little bit of an asterisk, but the reason I brought him in this week is because he was massively dropped this past week, about a 23% drop in ownership week over week. It was a big drop. So he's owned in 65% of ESPN leagues. It is dropping. So I would say you're doing it too soon. This Jets matchup is juicy. They're on the road. Belichick's not going to want to get embarrassed by the Jets. Like, come on. I think Cam Newton has a better game against these Jets. He probably gets in the end zone on his feet and likely through the air also. I like Cam Newton this week. I'm gonna say he's a streamable quarterback for sure. So, or a great buy replacement if you just need a guy for a bye week. He's a streamer in that aspect too. Cam Newton should be out there in about 35% of ESPN leagues. He's still 65% owned, so there's a good chance he might not be out there, but there's also a good chance he could be. All right, and then defense. I loved this matchup a couple weeks ago, and I love it again this week, especially because Washington's at home this week, and they play the New York Giants. Was a great setup. The result was not what I was looking for, but I'm going to roll it back. We're going to do it again. They're at home. New York has to travel to Washington. Look, Washington is in the top percentile of teams with sacks and takeaways this year. The Giants are also in the top percentile, Daniel Jones rather, in taking sacks and throwing picks. I love this matchup. Again, I love it. I like the fact they're at home. I like the fact that Washington's coming off of a bye. So New York is coming into the game on a short week. They played Monday night. So I just like everything about this matchup. I think it's lining up well. If the Washington football team is out there on the waivers, they're owned in 51% of ESPN leagues. So it's a coin toss that they'll be out there. Snag them, get them in your lineup. They're going to be a great start this week. I really like them. I actually think they're a top 5 defense on the week. All right, BroMob. So that's going to do it. I told you it was going to be a short episode, and it is exactly that. So I'm going to wrap it up. But before I do, for direct and guaranteed start sit advice, make sure you head over to jointhebromob.com. We got all kinds of good stuff there for you, and we'll guarantee advice and start sit advice. We can conversate with you one-on-one and actually give you some good pointers and stuff on your team. $2 hairs. That's what it costs to be an official BroMobster. So you're helping out the show when you're over there. All the people that do that so far are already. We appreciate all your help. You keep this podcast going. All right. So be sure to tune in every Wednesday. Today's a little bit different, but every Wednesday to stay up to date on all the fantasy football news in the world and to gather any insights to dominate your fantasy football league. Also, make sure you head over to our website, www.thefantasyfootballbros.com for all kinds of news articles, stuff like that. Just a ton of good advice over there. We're constantly getting that updated. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, basically wherever you listen to. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on TikTok. That's the hot spot to be, TikTok. At Fantasy Football Bros is our handle at TikTok. Get over there. Get on us now. What? Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast. Be sure to check out our website, like I said. And BroMob, we will see you mañana. What? No, next week. Goodbye.